Guys, this is Yoda. So Blizzard recently made some updates to the PTR. There's new dungeons now, so it's like the legacy dungeons plus Floodgate this week. I think next week it's going to be all the dungeons. They also made a few class tuning changes, some changes to Unholy. Looks like most of these are single target changes, so it will not affect Mythic Plus that much. I also haven't really seen anyone playing Unholy in Mythic Plus, so it's hard to get a gauge for how strong it is. Havoc, I believe this is a buff, but I can't really tell. For Demon Hunter in general, Fellsguard is getting some massive nerfs, so Fellsguard, Demon Surge damage reduced by 20%, Burning Blades is 40 instead of 50, and fixed an issue where Fell Devastation not share cooldown with Fell Distillation. So Fellsguard is like down horrendous right now, in my opinion, for Vengeance. On the other hand, Vengeance is getting some very big buffs. So Fall's chance to generate Soul Fragments would increase the lower tower counts with 1 guaranteed when striking a single target. It's massive. Your Soul Gen is actually going up a lot from this, I think. And also, this is actually huge. So Feed the Demon is now 1 point talent, and it's 0.35 for that 1 point instead of 0.5 for 2 points. The biggest part of this is that now you can get Last Resort as a Demon Hunter without losing Frailty or Down in Flames / Illuminated Sigils. You can get all 3 of your good capstones. You basically have to trade, I think if you play Down in Flames, you have to trade Dark Bloom and Cycle for Feed the Demon and Last Resort if you want that. And if you want to get Last Resort while playing Illuminated Sigils, then you're probably better off trading the brand spread talents for Feed the Demon and Last Resort. Obviously, Last Resort is generally going to be like a damage loss / overall throughput loss, but you know, a cheat death is a cheat death, right? Every Mythic Plus tank loves cheat deaths. This change is not actually on the PTR yet, so we'll see how it plays out once it actually gets put on. Another massive change for Vengeance has been that the Fury of the Eldrachi bug, where your Blade Flurry proc wasn't getting consumed, is now fixed. However, Wounded Quarry is not fixed, so surely that gets fixed before the game goes live. So overall, VDH Eldrachi lost like, I would say 10 to 20% damage, and then but they're soon to gain about 5 to 8% damage, and that damage is all on the prow target. So you know, we'll see how it all plays out in the end. Personally, obviously, if you guys follow me, you know I prefer Eldrachi, and I think it is the better build at the moment, has better self-sustain, and also the part where Fellsguard had like much better meta uptime has been kind of resolved with this line, fixing an issue where they did not share an issue with Feldev or with Fell Distillation. So in my opinion, Eldrachi will definitely be the way to go if you play VDH in the new season. We will see how it plays out, but that's where I'm at right now. As far as where this moves VDH in the tier list, I would say this actually keeps VDH pretty high, since these 2 or quote-unquote 3 changes are actually massive. I think Eldrachi VDH will be very, very strong. Fellsguard will be like okay, but I think it'll be worse. In my opinion, it'll be worse. Some Evoker changes. So Flame Shaper. I don't speak Evoker, so I don't really know what Flame Shaper does, but this is a massive change for Augmentation Evoker. Before, you basically had full uptime of Evan Might. Like you had literally 99% uptime on Evan Might, and you didn't even have to try for it. Now, from what I've seen, it's like 80 to 90, 80 to 85, I would say, depending on how good the Aug Evoker player is, maybe 80 to 90, which is a pretty big loss. You know, we'll see if that means they're still tuned high, quote unquote, and if they're actually meta. I have a sinking feeling that we're actually going to be playing with Aug Evokers next season as well, even though people are going to be very unhappy about it. But yeah, that's where we're at now. BM Hunter sees a small buff to Dark Ranger and a small nerf to Pack Leader. I've also played with some other classes other than BM Hunter, so I had to play some BM Hunter myself, even though I'm not really a BM Hunter expert anymore. I would say BM Hunter is not in the same tier that it was before, where I had it like in the same tier as Enhanced Shaman. After playing with some other stuff, I would say BM Hunter does like pretty good damage. It's just that for BM Hunter to actually be quote unquote meta, it needs to be doing like ridiculously high damage, since it has no raid buff, since Hunter's Mark is completely fake. It's fake raid buff, and it also has very, I would say, lower amounts of utility compared to some other classes, but the biggest thing is that it has no raid buff. These are pretty massive buffs to survival. Hunter, I'm pretty sure, is in a state where like, why would you not play BM? Because MM is like harder and more squishy, I think, not sure, but it's like harder to play and also like just does lower damage, so why would you play it? Survival Hunter, these are pretty massive buffs. We'll see if that actually ends up playing out to be, you know, good for Survival Hunter, ends up being good because of it. I haven't seen anyone actually playing Survival, so I can't tell. For the Mage changes, I'm not sure what these actually do, but Mage has been doing a lot of damage on PTR. I did some keys with Mages recently. They've been doing very close to Enhanced Shaman damage. Granted, Enhanced Shaman was slightly nerfed, but that is quite an achievement for a class to be doing. Some red changes, which I don't think this is an actual change. It's just like a aesthetic change. Casting Power Infusion now adds the duration, the Undermine Force up to max duration. I thought it already did that, so maybe I'm reading something wrong. Okay. This is a bug fix with Deathstalker. And then the real thing we want to get into is the enhanced shaman changes. So this is a tier set nerf. Before, I think you just like wanted to push Crash Lightning even like under when you had like other buffs up, and now you won't really want to do that. You also just do less damage with Crash Lightning. Also, these are Stormbringer nerfs. So Voltaic Surge increase the damage of Crash and Chain Lightning by 10 was 15. And Awakening Storms is now like, you know, 4. You need 4 instead of 3 to proc Tempest, so it's like 33% as good. That's not 33. Anyway, it's worse by some amount. After watching Enhanced Shaman on the PTR, Enhanced Shaman is still doing very good damage, and it still synergizes really well with Disc Priest, by just giving it PI. So I think Enhanced Shaman is definitely still in. It has really good utility and a raid buff. Very crucial. Changes to Destro. This is a small nerf, I think. Visual fix here. And Prot Warrior gets another buff. However, as we mentioned before, while Prot Warrior will be pretty good at surviving like just random melees, this season is just not great for Prot Warrior because almost all of the things that challenge tanks are not really blockable. And these things are like AoE group damage or like bleed debuffs or a haste debuff. There's very few actual things that are blockable that are challenging tanks, which means it's not that good of a season for Prot Warrior, in my opinion. Anyway, people wanted to see an updated tier list, so here we are. I have moved Prot Paladin back up to S tier along with VDH. That is because after all of the scaling changes and playing with some healers, it seems like Disc Priest and Mistweaver are by far the 2 best healers right now, and those go really, really well with Prot Pally. If the healer balance changes, then I think Prot Pally I would probably take Prot Pally's spot away from S tier, since Prot Pally is quite reliant on healers in 11.1 from what I've played with, from what I've seen. Not nearly as self-sufficient as the current season, Season 1, and the damage is also not as high as it is in Season 1. However, you know, if you're playing with a Mistweaver, they just kind of push a random button on your keyboard and the tank is permatop, so it's great. Prot Paladin loves that. VDH can't really use it because VDH is permanently topping themselves anyway. And also, Prot Paladin works really well with Disc Priest, since Disc Priest's main weakness, at least in my opinion, is spot healing. Like if someone gets a dot and then there's an AoE happening, the person with a dot is in big trouble, and the Disc Priest has some trouble healing them. Prot Pally can cover that very easily with like Sack, Temperate in Battle if you're playing that, Lay on Hands, Spell Ward, etc. So Prot Paladin works really well with Disc Priest. As far as damage goes, I'd say my top 3 right now are actually Enhance, Aug, and Mage. Enhance is still doing really good damage even after the nerfs. Aug, it's still buffing, you know, the 2 best DPS. Still tuned, I think, quite high. Probably another nerf incoming for Aug, if I had to guess. And mages have been doing really good damage, Frost and Fire. I have not seen an Arcane Mage, so don't ask me about that. As far as tanks go, I have moved Bear up to the A tier, since Bear has really good self-sustain. It basically does similar things to Blood Decay, except Bear can kind of handle bigger pulls. Just has less utility, because it doesn't have grip, but Mark of the Wild is still good, so I kind of put it in the same tier as Blood Decay. In my opinion, Blood Decay is going to be more consistent for pugs, but Bear could actually see play like higher level keys if like these 2 tanks get nerfed. Blood Decay, I think, will not see play in the highest keys, because when you're doing the highest keys, you may be required, since they made the change to scaling, to do like massive pulls. For instance, like the whole first room of Workshop, there is no way of Blood Decay surviving that for like a super high key level. Like you would just die through Icebound or something because there's too many mobs hitting you. Whereas these 3 tanks could probably handle that pull. On the other hand, you know, Blood Decay still has all the strengths that I mentioned earlier this month, which is that they're fully self-sufficient from the healer. They're very strong against like debuff type tank busters. And Grip is also very good in the new season. So I would say Blood Decay is still in the A tier. Brew and Warrior as like tanks that kind of need healing, I still have in the B tier. As far as the DPS go, this is kind of just what I have seen. I haven't played like enough keys with any of the specs down here, tank or healers or DPS, really accurately rank them. And I would say these are not really that accurate either, to be honest, since I don't really play them myself. This is just what I've seen from like other people playing. But yeah, this is where we're at with the current tier list. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Peace.